Good day everyone, this is Nemesis and today we are going to take a look at part 2 of the WvW guide. This is especially designed to tackle Zerg fighting in a WvW environment. So I'm going to assume most people have watched part 1 and understand more or less the build overview from part 1, the breaking down PvP, what it means to be a roamer, what it means to be roaming, and the current WvW meta. Those are really important aspects in order to be able to understand how to function in a Zerg. In part 1 of the video we covered the Conditionmancer, which was a really good build for PvPing, but as it turns out is not really as effective while fighting within a Zerg, with a Zerg group. So in this video we are going to understand even further why it's not as effective at large scale battles, but you have to remember that the PvP Conditionmancer is still the best one at fighting in small encounters, team fights, 1v1s and so on. So under the assumption that you watched the first part, I'm going to use a lot of the information that was in the first part to make my points here. So in this video we are going to look at the battle conditions that need to be satisfied in order to function in a Zerg. Then, in an attempt to satisfy those conditions, we are going to take a look at the weapons and utilities, the traits, and last but not least, gear and stats, also some final notes to wrap things up. So the first thing we are going to do is take a look at how much time the PvP Conditionmancer needs to finish a full damage rotation. Because we all know that the PvP Conditionmancer is designed to fight players, not mobs, and in part 1 you all saw that I was killing people for like half an hour, so it's really good build. But it matters how fast you can do a damage rotation that gets to kill someone. So, about 10 seconds. Now we are going to join a battle between two Zergs that are so big that you actually have like, I have a really strong computer, but I have like 12 frames. So many people in one spot. And there's some things to notice there if you just analyze the battle just a little bit. First, you have to go out. As you can see, I have no range to do damage that way, no chance. So I go out and my people already engaged the enemy forces, and doesn't look so good so far. But I managed to get into the back of the Zerg and start doing some damage. The thing to note in the beginning is I don't have any stacks on my sigil. I have no stacks on my sigil whatsoever. So I start trying to do damage, try to click. And some of you might see in part 1, if you didn't see part 1, it's highly advised to see part 1, not only for the knowledge that you can obtain from part 1, but also you might see that I was owning people for like half an hour, like owning just 1v2, 1v3, 1v4. So you would think that someone like me doesn't have a problem clicking people and choosing targets. So let's take a look on how fast I can click people and start doing damage. You have to take into consideration the mortality rate and the pace at which the Zerg moves within itself. That's why it's Zerg, it's swirling, it's zerging around. So I keep trying to tab, click, do whatever I can to do my damage. I keep clicking, it's insane. If you notice my targets, I almost never have a target on. So small side note, you might want to turn auto targeting on for big Zergs, because otherwise you'll just be, oh my god. So you turn auto targeting on and then you go back in and at least you get to choose the closest target. The problem is the closest target might die in under half a second. Secondly, the closest target might run away, or since the closest target might be 20 people, you might die in the next second. So the window of opportunity for you to actually do damage, especially in big Zergs, is sometimes under half a second, and then the target is gone. You have no more target, you have nothing to do damage on. Also, another small side note here. If you take a look closely, by the end of the fight I will have 22 stacks on my sigil. That means I hit 22 people. So if I hit really hard, that means not only did I did a lot of personal contribution because I hit 22 people really hard, I also have personal gain. And I spoke about personal contribution and personal gain in part 1. So it's looking good so far with the build that I am using in this video. But let's continue on this path a little bit. So we can understand that while in a Zerg you need to do, like I said, do a lot of damage in a certain direction at the commander's order. Zerging in WvW is tactics versus tactics. This is not PvP. This is not PvP. This is not what you've seen in part 1, and I'm sure that people can understand that this doesn't really resemble part 1. You don't really have to counter, you don't have to worry about a lot of things, because as I've explained in the current WvW meta in part 1, they have numbers to soak up the damage. They don't have necessarily skills and stuff. It works differently. So from a damage perspective, you need to be able to do a lot of damage in a certain location, preferably AoE, preferably untargetable AoE, because you don't have time to press an epidemic, or to be able to do burst attacks under half a second or 1 second or 2 seconds, because after 1 or 2 seconds the target is gone. It's either outside of your range because it retreated back into the Zerg, as I've discussed in the current WvW meta, how Zergs function, or the target is dead, or you are dead, or something happens. So everything points towards bursting type damage, especially since condition damage is made to be fight in AoE, and it's much easier for 20 people to put down condition removals than for you to be able to combo with another player to hit the epidemic that matters. It's just harder. If you can manage something like that, I'm not saying you can, if you can manage something like that, then by all means use the build from part 1, the PvP Conditionmancer, that is made to fight players. In that case you will have an advantage, because the PvP Conditionmancer is made for small scale and 1v1s and everything. So if you can manage to pull that off in big Zergs, then you're set for the entire WvW. You don't need a separate build for big Zergs. With everything you've seen so far, and you see I struggle at clicking. Someone that owns so many players doesn't have problems clicking, you would think. But I do. It's problematic, and you have to do damage right there on the spot, otherwise your target is gone. So, in conclusion, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is in a Zerg fight. As you can see, some Zerg fights don't even last as normal fights, they're shorter. So the first concept would be immediate damage. The second concept that needs to be satisfied, it's the concept of decisive damage. Decisive damage. So for that we are going to take a look at a bit of math to have a small difference. So we know that the condition build can stack up to 12-15 stacks of bleeding on the target, has about 1700 condition damage, and it's basically all you need to kill people. As you've seen in part 1, I killed so many people. But that's the thing, I don't usually go into numbers, because in part 1, as I've said, as I've stated many times in part 1, it doesn't matter if I showcase that I do 1,000,000 damage if the damage is not enough. For PvP, you need to do as much damage as it is required for you to kill someone. If you have enough damage that is required to kill someone, then you can focus on defense in order to counter your opponent, so that you get to do your damage, you don't just die. So, I do enough damage to kill people. But the thing is, that damage requires about 12 seconds to really kick in. It's also, as you can see in the video, according to the damage calculator, it's also about 1500 DPS. It's actually around 3000 if you include fear and other conditions. 3000 DPS, but you need about 10 seconds to reach that. If you spread that with epidemic, if you get lucky and spread that with epidemic, then you do 3000 DPS on multiple targets. It's really hard to do that, but can be done at times. Now, you might get lucky and do it once, you might get lucky and do it twice. You've still done only about 3000 DPS for about 3 or 4 seconds until it gets cleansed or the person runs away, and then you sort of didn't do much. Especially since fear can't be spread that easily, you'll be stuck with about 2000 damage per second for about 6 seconds, around 6000 damage, which is really hard to acquire, but still 6000 damage in AoE, which is quite a lot. The problem is the person is going to run away, and you don't have another 10 seconds to finish what you started. So that's the problem. Decisive damage. If you two-shot someone, then that person is two-shotted. And if someone wants to revive that person, you two-shot the other person as well. You keep two-shotting people until they learn the lesson. So this is our main focus for this build. immediate, decisive, ranged AoE damage. Immediate, decisive, range AoE damage. That is our primary goal. And since we will be running with the Zerg, we will forsake all other countermeasures, because even though, as we know, that the PvP condition answer can fight 1 versus 3 at best, you cannot fight 1 versus 300. It's not worth to invest in something like that. It's not really worth it from a damage point of view to invest in tanking capabilities and countering capabilities if you have range, because then you can stay behind people that have no damage but will tank a few hits for you. So we are a damage dealer that needs to function in a Zerg. One last thing that I will say before we go into the actual build. You might be tempted to use this build everywhere. You might think, why shouldn't I use this build while roaming with a small team, since it does such insane immediate range AoE damage. It's basically really nice to be able to two-shot people. It's a lot of fun. Why shouldn't I use this? And I said many times, this build is a Zerg build designed to function within the Zerg. As we've seen, we follow some principles, but this is not a PvP build. You've seen me on many occasions with the proper PvP build designed to fight 1v1 or 1v multiple, small team fights, the PvP condition answer. You've seen me fight multiple opponents many times and even winning. So as you can see from this small encounter, I failed to one-shot someone, and if someone else shows up, then it's basically it's the end. Like, I drop instantly, no chance whatsoever. And since I'm not a roamer, you might want to check what a roamer is in part 1. Since I'm not a roamer, there is no retreat for me. So don't try it. Trust me guys, don't try it. So as you might have guessed it already, we are going to be using a modified version of the glass cannon build. Not going to go into too much details, and I'm going to explain the class mechanics behind each decision in the creation process of a glass cannon build, because I've did that in the PvE guide for the glass cannon. So I don't want to make 2-hour long videos every single time. There's going to be an annotation on top if you need to understand the class mechanics behind the glass cannon, what it means to be a glass cannon, damage rotations, DPS uptime, math and statistics, calculations, everything, it's there. Feel free to check it out. So, just going to go real quick through the basics. We are going to need some weapons. So the glass cannon weapons for the main set, we have axe, vulnerability, bursting channeling spell that also adds life force, quite a bit of it, and this is retaliation, cripple, kiting capabilities basically, and also remove 1 boon. Offhand weapon for the main set is going to be the focus, further vulnerability, regeneration, and further life force, of course, and this is chill plus damage plus remove of 3 boons. So we have the ability to remove 3 boons and an extra 1 boon, plus this is cripple and this is chilling, so further kiting capabilities and debuffing, a great deal of debuffing, also vulnerability and even more vulnerability. So far so good. For the main set it is settled. For the secondary set, I personally prefer to use Dagger Warhorn to keep true to the glass cannon build, but you can also use the staff for the life force. This is regeneration. The bleeding is not really that good, but since it attacks 5 targets, it's good for tagging. This is chill and poison, more chilling of course. This is an anti-condition mark, so we have a protection against conditions. We don't really need conditions, but again this can be used for tagging. And this is fear. We are not going to have damage from that fear, but can be used for tagging. Yeah, I don't really recommend this. I recommend Dagger and Warhorn. Dagger has life siphon and as you can see does quite a bit of damage, and it gives us some health. The health is not going to matter that much, but if you don't have a dash route and you don't have a ghostly claws, instead of auto attacking you can go switch and life siphon. Also the immobilize, it's a really long immobilize, 4-second immobilize. That's quite a lot of immobilize, can be used both defensively and offensively. You can immobilize someone and then blast him to smithereens. Whale of Doom. Whale of Doom daisies a foe in front of you. Again, you CC a bit and you lay on the burst. Also you can prevent revives and that sort of thing, you're not going to use it too often. But the real reason is Locust Swarm. Sometimes in a Zerg you're going to miss a few speed buffs, so you need to catch up. And if you switch and you go for Signet of the Locust, then you might be stuck with Signet of the Locust in moments you don't want to be stuck with Signet of the Locust. Suffice to say that Locust Swarm is something that I prefer on having at every single time, just in case I need to get to my Zerg, or just in case I need to get away from the Zerg that is just going to get that is about to get annihilated, and I need my speed to make a run for it and let the fools die. Because as you remember, we are a glass cannon, we are not meant to stick around and ask people how they are. Also, Dagger 1. The Dagger 1 gives life force, and with some sigils, if someone is going to break your comfort zone and come close, and you no longer have the advantage of range and you're in a tight spot, this skill can really take people by surprise, because the cycle of these attacks, a full combo of Dagger 1 does quite a significant amount of damage. So basically you blast him once, about 5-6k, and then as he gets to you can hit for like 7k you can hit for 7k if you're lucky in a very short period of time, and no one is going to expect that. No one is going to expect a Necro to go. So that is really useful. Okay, we have the weapons. Utilities. First utility, consume condition. You don't need to get all complicated and use a minion. You don't have a minion build, or a 40-second cooldown. Besides, this is the only defense you have against conditions on this build. And I know it's a glass cannon, I know you hide between a Zerg, but you don't want to die from a few random conditions that get put on you. You want to have at least something to counter conditions, at least every 25 seconds. So consume condition is the heal for you. Well of Suffering. I have demonstrated many times and I have stated many times in this video, we need immediate AoE damage. So that's basically bursting AoE. So what better way to burst than Well of Suffering and Life Transfer? Those two combined make a really deadly effect. We also have a second well, Well of Corruption. This doesn't do as much damage as the first well, as you can see, about 4,753, 2,808. It's more than that. The tooltips don't take into consideration a lot of factors, so it's a lot more damage than that. And you can see this damage in the PvE guide for the glass cannon. So over there you're going to see that you can burst for like 150,000 damage in PvE. This is a bit different, but anyway. So this is a combo field dark, and this is a combo field dark. Also, both wells are unblockable, which is really important, especially when you're trying to bring down the front of a Zerg, because a lot of people are going to go into perma block and then they're going to charge forward. Then you go, well, I have some Well of Suffering for you. So yeah, okay, the middle skill, I always save up the middle skill for something that I'm going to switch a lot. So basically use Bloodi's Power, since it gives might stacks, which directly amplifies your power, so you can burst even harder. Sometimes, like I said, Signet of the Locust, you might use that to move about. Sometimes you want to pull someone down from a wall, or prevent someone from getting inside the keep, and there's really no way to do that except to drag him. And you drag him to you, and you also chill, also gives life force. So as you can see, a lot of skills actually give a lot of life force. This is going to be really useful in our build. You can also use maybe Spectral Armor if you want protection, but it's not really necessary. And Spectral Wall, especially Spectral Wall. Spectral Wall is very useful. Applies protection, it's a combo field ethereal, and basically it's sort of a Zerg thinner. Because the Zerg is coming towards you, some of them are going to have stability, but others will not. And it will sort of break the formation of the Zerg. You are going to thin out their numbers. You're not going to kill them, but some people are going to get stuck in the back. So in the front, there's not going to be so many people per square mile. That means lower amount of DPS per square mile for your Zerg, which is really beneficial. You guys saw that I two-shot some people with Leech Form, so it's sort of more or less explanatory, especially since you have permanent stability for the duration, and this skill pierces. This skill pierces and has insane range, which is awesome. So now we have covered the weapons and the utilities. Moving on to the traits. Here is where you will notice another difference compared to the PvE one. So we have 30, 10, 30. 30 Spite, 10 Curses, 30 Soul Reaping. In Spite, of course, we get power and condition duration for the vulnerability and power for the direct damage. Gain health when you kill something. Life Blast grants might for 15 seconds. Life Blast is basically Death Shroud 1, which does considerable amount of damage if you're within 600 units, and lower damage at 1200. So every time you use Life Blast you gain might, which stacks with Bloody's power, as you can see. Axe training. Axe damage is increased by 20% and axe skills recharge faster. We are using an axe. We are going to be bursting considerably higher. So the fact that axe training also influences Life Blast, makes your Life Blast hits stronger, that's a really good trait. Close to death. Increased damage by 20% to enemies below 50% health. This trait is insane. This trait basically turns you into a snipe. Not only does it stack with axe training, it also as well influences Life Blast and the damage you do in Lich form. So basically you're going to go into a Zerg, find people that are already damaged, and you're going to finish the job. So that is amazing. Okay, curses. Precision and condition damage. We know we need precision for critical strike chance, but the condition damage I always advise against in a glass cannon build, because you're going to steal bleeding stacks from your team, and proper condition masters or hybrids can really benefit fully from the damage, but in a PvP environment no one is going to get to 25 stacks on a target anyway, so chipping in with a bit of bleeds with bar precision, if you add a bit of bleeding when you crit, it's not a problem. The reason we go into curses is for focused rituals. Focused rituals is an insane turning point in the PvP build. We don't really use this in PvE because you don't really have to stay that far away from mobs. You can simply put Well of Suffering dodge twice and go into Death Shroud, then use Life Transfer. But in a PvP environment you want to stay as further away as possible from the enemy Zerg. So giving the wells, basically your AoE, giving your AoE the ability to be range AoE, it's huge, it's huge. You guys will notice if you are going to use this. Okay, Soul Reaping. We have critical strike damage and Life Force Pool, and we have a lot of skills that give us Life Force Pool, and the Life Force Pool is useful for staying in Dash Shroud for the Life Blast. Increase Life Force gain from skills by 10%, of course. Move 25% faster while in Death Shroud. The reason why I take this, sometimes you are following someone already in Death Shroud and you want to give him just one more shot of 5k and you can't really reach him, and since you're in Death Shroud you can't use other buffs and there's no one to buff you for speed, but now in Death Shroud you're already quite fast, so that's quite handy in my experience. Life Blast pierces and causes vulnerability. This is another very important component in our build. Life Blast, Death Shroud 1, pierces and causes vulnerability. The vulnerability is okay, but the fact that it pierces, every time I hit 5k I have an opportunity of hitting another 5k and a few targets, and since they are so clumped up, when people are really clumped up, I have spoken extensively in part 1 of the video about the shape of a Zerg, how it moves, how it functions, and how it is comet shape. If you hit someone that is really in the front, it's not necessarily skill related, it's hard, but it does happen. And in the beginning of the video you saw that I got 22 stacks on my sigil, so I hit 22 people. And every time I hit, you guys saw during the video that when I hit about 5k on average and 2-3k on really hard tanks. So if I hit someone with 5k I have a chance to hit 5k on the target behind him, so that's already 10k of immediate range decisive damage. That's just really nice, so we are getting into the really nice part. Okay, moving on. You do 5% more damage when you have 50% more Life Force. The thing is, Life Force builds are really good in big Zergs, because there's going to be so many dead people around you that basically you're going to stay in Death Shroud
for a very long period of time, and Death Shroud also absorbs damage, so you're not as glassy as you might think. As soon as you lose all your Death Shroud, basically you just run away a bit and wait for some people to die and you have Death Shroud again, which is amazing. In that time you run away, maybe you use a bit of Blood is Power, you put some more Well of Suffering, maybe you go into Leech form just to continue your DPS, so you have DPS uptime. The Deathly Claws in Leech form also pierce, so it's as you can see, the build is starting to form. Last but definitely not least, you have 50% greater critical strike chance while in Death Shroud. This is just amazing. You can buff yourself with Blood is Power, put down 2 wells, go into Death Shroud and use Life Transfer for an insane amount of damage. In PvE you can do up to 150,000 damage with this combo. 150,000 damage in PvE. In PvP and WvW is going to be a bit lower because people are going to have high armor and are going to dodge a lot, but still, it's really amazing. Okay, moving on to the gear, it's basically just Berserker. Berserker across the board, every piece of armor is Berserker, all accessories are Ascended Berserker. When it comes to the weapons, we have Assassin stats. I'm using Assassin stats because compared to the previous class cannon, I'm using Superior Sigil of Bloodlust, which gives power. I was using Superior Sigil of Perception, so I get enough precision to get to 50% critical strike chance, so that I'm at 100% critical strike chance while in Death Shroud. But now, since I went 10 into curses, I have 100 extra precision, and if I use Assassin stat weapons, I'm at 50% critical strike chance and I can use more power instead of more precision. So Superior Sigil of Bloodlust for the focus, and for the Berserker axe I use Superior Sigil of Force for more raw damage. For my secondary set I use Superior Sigil of Rage, so I get quickness. If my quickness kicks just as I'm doing a dagger 1 cycle on a player, the player is gone. He's basically like that, gone. Okay, and Superior Sigil of Force for the Warhorn, so you maximize your raw damage capabilities. Okay, so the runes, I use 2 superior runes of Fire, 2 superior runes of Holbrak and 2 superior runes of Strength for 60% might duration. The build uses the same principle of might stacking as the PvE one, because 25 stacks of might is almost 900 extra power, and as you can see I'm already at 3590. If you add another 900 to that, you are at almost 4400 power, doing damage with 4400 damage with 100% crit chance, because you have 100% crit chance in Death Shroud, at 110 critical strike damage. That's really strong. So the last piece of the puzzle would be the food. Bowls of curry butter nashqua soup, 100 precision and 10 critical strike damage, so we get to 110 critical strike damage and 51 critical strike chance. A bit over the board, but the thing is, you heard me that you might not be able to do a second shot. So basically you get to 10 stacks with Blood is Power, and when you go into Death Shroud you try to do a few hits to get to 25 stacks of might, but you can't really do that. So here is the catch. Here is the catch. You are going to use Bowls of Truffle Saute. 100% chance to gain might when you kill a foe. So basically if you tag, and you're going to tag a lot in a Zerg, even in the Zergs you can't really click. As you've seen in the beginning, you can't really click, yet I got 22 kills. Those 22 kills would translate in 22 stacks of might, and I'm already at 10 to start with, and the Life Blast is going to add a few more. So basically you have a chance in good circumstances to have 25 stacks of might on yourself in a Zerg at all times. So how do you tag so much? Because this is 35 seconds, this is 40 seconds, and Life Blast doesn't always pierces the way you want it, so you can't really tag too much. Unless, and this is the final piece of the puzzle, unless after you get Superior Sigil of Bloodlust you get it to stack 25 stacks, you switch with Superior Sigil of Fire. 30% chance on critical strike to trigger a flame blast for AoE damage, cooldown 5 seconds. You are going to be critting with life blast every single time, so you have 30% chance to do some AoE. It's not going to do insane amount of damage, but you tag, and every time you tag you gain some might. And as you can see, I dropped 5 critical strike damage and 4 critical strike chance, but you're like, it's almost 100% anyway, and in a group you might get Fury, so you're doing an overkill. It's enough. It's far more important to get 25 stacks of might, like on the fly. And since these modifications, as you can see, I'm just doing by switching foods, you are adaptable to a certain situation. If you don't need that many might stacks, you basically go into more crit damage and more precision. So this pretty much wraps up the part 2 of the WvW guide. I will do a part 3. It's going to be only about advanced tactics, both in team fights and in Zerg fights. It's going to take me quite a bit of time to do that, but it's sort of a long-term project. Meanwhile, I will finally be able to do the SPVP guide I always wanted to do, and then live streaming all the way. As some of you might know, I'm a PvP person, so going into PvP and especially live streaming, that is going to be a really fun experience. I've been training a bit lately in PvP, and I got into top 300 EU players. It's quite hard to progress towards top 100, since most of the top 100 players don't play as often to remain in top. You can win like 10 or 12 games in a row, and you progress from 300 and a little bit to 250 on the leaderboards. And if you lose 2 games, you drop like 80 positions. So it's quite hard. You need to have a win ratio of like 70 or 80% to be able to progress. But we're getting there. So that's sort of the future plans. I hope you guys like the new way in which I teach. I believe this is sort of important. It's a different approach to guides, unlike PvE where you can maximize certain stats and value actual raw numbers, like I do 20k damage, I do this DPS, and you guys saw I do the math for each build. But in PvP it doesn't matter. I keep saying it doesn't matter if you can do 1,000,000 damage if you're short 1 damage to kill someone. You have to take in consideration a lot of facts, and I often use the vague term of enough damage. It's sort of vague, but I back that up with a lot of footage on the fact that I actually kill people. So that means that I have enough damage, because if I wouldn't have enough damage, then I wouldn't be able to kill people. So as soon as you have enough damage, that's sort of your focus point. Everything over the enough damage goes into counters and defensive measures, so you get to do your enough damage, otherwise it's pointless. Otherwise it's just pointless. It's like a glass cannon thief without stealth. What's the point of that? You one-shot someone or you die instantly. That's not fun. Feel free to leave in the comment section below your opinions, your suggestions, anything you want. Questions if you have, I will get to them eventually. And until next time, enjoy your gaming and have a great day.
This one is nice for if they are running away.
Sir.
Oh, shit. Too late.